Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Talk2Rami. This is Rami, your host. Today, I'm very excited because I have a very special guest. Mita Mallick is in the house. She's an amazing entrepreneur, brand specialist, LinkedIn top voicer, podcaster, and actually, she's a co-host of the podcast called Brown Table Talk. They talk about diversity. She talks about leadership as well, and she's an inclusion champion. Mita, welcome to the show, dear.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation.
Thank you. You know, as I am an immigrant, you are an immigrant, you have an Indian background, and you talk about diversity.
Hmm.
When you talk about diversity, is it something that coming about your experience that you went through, or is it cultural that you bring it to corporate America? How did you become a diversity expert?
Well, I'll start with I'm the proud daughter of Indian immigrant parents. I was born in
Amen.
the US with my younger brother. And growing up, I was the funny looking, dark skinned girl with the long, funny looking braid whose parents spoke funny English. They drove a funny minivan that had funny sounding music when they picked me up from school. I brought in a funny smelling lunch. And I say all that until it wasn't funny anymore. I was bullied a lot, both verbally and physically, by my peers growing up. And I was made to know every day in that community that I did not belong. And I did not grow up in an Instagram era. So I didn't see myself in products and services. And I thought, where do I belong in this world? And so I never felt included. And so I have been, as I talk about in my new book, Reimagine Inclusion, Debunking 13 Myths to Transform Your Workplace, I talk about I've been chasing inclusion my whole life, right? Because from the schoolyard to the classrooms, I didn't imagine that those bullies would follow me into corporate America. I didn't think that I'd continue to have those experiences in my life. So I feel like it found me. Like it's always been part of my story. It's not something that was added on. It's fundamentally a part of who I am and how I was born and raised in this country.
And then when you get to the corporate America, you brought a lot of stuff with you. Like I am an Iranian, Iranian
Yeah.
American. I came from the country that my father has always told me, respect as you want to be respected.
Mm,
This is how I grew up with it. And then I
wow.
go to corporate America, which is I couldn't survive. And this, I see these people respecting the peers and, higher manager, lower people, employee, just use them as a numbers. And I was just discouraged, really. I
Mm,
was very discouraged.
yes.
And it wasn't my fault. It was my background. It's how I grew up.
I
And I
love,
bring
yeah.
that diversity into the
Yes,
corporate America. And then I don't know how to deal with it. A lot of people right now, they don't know. And
absolutely.
I read your stuff, and it's amazing how you deal with this, how you talk to the managers. And do you have any experience that you actually went through that, through the diversity in the leadership position?
Um, it's so interesting. I wanted to evoke Taylor Swift for a moment. My
Yeah.
8-year-old daughter is obsessed with Taylor Swift, like
Oh,
many people in the country and the world are. There's a song called Antihero, and there's a line in it that I keep thinking about that says, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me." So as I entered corporate America, I kept thinking I was the problem. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me. And so early in my career, I jumped a lot because I couldn't find places. Like when I talk about inclusion, what does it mean? You feel valued, you feel seen, you feel recognized, you know your contributions matter. You matter to that organization. I didn't feel that way for a very long time. And I started to realize, well, these systems and processes weren't built for me. But what you bring up is so interesting. Now I realize also the systems and processes weren't built for me, but so many of the gifts my immigrant parents gave me also held me back in corporate America. Similar to you, it's like I was told by my father, may he rest in peace, keep your head
right.
down, work hard, stay out of trouble, you'll be recognized. You never, I have the most amazing work ethic. I maybe could outwork you. Just joking. But I
Yeah.
like work, but it's like I didn't work smart. I worked hard, right? And I also didn't know it was okay to quit people, spaces, and places. You just never quit. And I also was raised to be incredibly humble. And that doesn't work in corporate America,
Nope,
right? Like
unfortunately.
overly humble, share the spotlight, don't take credit for your work. And I think something you mentioned that really sparked in me is this idea of hospitality to the point where I will sacrifice my own comfort for yours. And that
Okay.
showed up over and over in corporate America. And so I had to think about how I would show up differently because I am to this day still more of a proud, quiet, introverted leader. I'll never be the loudest voice in the room. I know I will make the most impact. And corporate America doesn't value that. And so that's always been my struggle. And that's why I'm not fighting just for myself, but for so many others on like how we all can be included for our gifts.
Isn't that sad? Like, I remember that my dad again said something, hey, you do your work, you do your best, they will recognize it. It doesn't happen like
It
that
doesn't happen
because,
that way.
I never got the feedback. I never got the goddamn feedback. And then when you go ask for the feedback, what they do, oh, you talk to your, to your supervisor, talk to that. And it's
Send you
like a
in
chain,
circles.
it's a chain reaction. It's a
Yeah,
circle.
absolutely. You're just
And,
like,
and,
who am I? Yeah.
and then you don't know who the hell am I, where I'm belong to, and then you do your thing, and you say, maybe something is you're wrong. It's
What is
with
wrong with you?
me, and then you come up with the just, I'm sorry, I tried to do better. No, and I was taught. I said, I'm not gonna say sorry. It's not me.
No, it's
I did
not
my
me. You're
best.
not the problem. It's
I'm
not
not the
you. You're
problem.
not the problem. Sorry to
And I,
listen.
I couldn't I couldn't really I don't know, they couldn't hear my voice, they were ignoring it, I don't know what was it, and then I decided I'm out. I want to create my own company, and I want to create the
Amazing.
culture, and I want to do the environment that I want for my people.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up you bring up a very interesting point, which is I see so many leaders struggle to give feedback because let's just be clear, some people are not meant to lead.
Yep.
And I say that with love and respect. It's a privilege and an honor to lead. And some people, like, for example, I might have really deep expertise, and that's what I should just do. It doesn't mean that I have to rule over and amass a bunch of headcount, right? That's not always that, like, and it's so interesting to me that's how we've been trained. Like, our value as a leader is how many people we oversee. That's actually not true.
No.
And so many of our leaders aren't skilled, but they're not skilled to give the feedback. And if I perceive a difference, like you look different than me, you act different, you think different, all of a sudden there's more distance and I'm scared to give you that feedback, right? I'm scared. And so what do? I avoid it. Or how many times in my career did I hear, just keep doing what you're doing?
Oh, I heard that many times. God.
You're killing it. Don't worry about it.
No.
Particularly as I became a mother, I have an 8 and 10-year-old. Why are you so worried about a promotion? You should be spending more time with your kids, right? Why are you so ambitious? You don't need to be worrying about that, right? So then the minimizing and dismissing, right? Who gave you permission to slow down my career? I'll say that again. Who gave you permission to slow down my career? And so that is also with feedback, is that when you perceive differences, you're less comfortable giving it. And I will tell you, and I know you know this as well, I see leaders I work with now, and I'm like, oh my God, if 20 years ago someone had just given you that feedback, like
Oh
it
my
is,
God.
you are damaging someone's career. It's so detrimental if I don't hear that piece of feedback. It's a gift. You're helping me. You're helping me, right? If you can shed some light on an area of opportunity, it's the biggest gift you can give someone, to give them feedback. As my friend Jill Katz says, with candor, courage, and care, right? She taught me
Candor,
that. You give feedback with candor, courage, and care.
I remember, I'm so happy you mentioned that. I've been in the United States for 30 years. And as you said, if 20 years ago somebody would come to me and say, hey, you're doing a good job, do this, do that, you got to get better. Nobody did that. It wasn't even a form of feedback. I have to find out for myself. And I basically, no mentorship, nothing. Now, I said, I suffer from that. Now, all my staff, they're younger, and I say, hey, just want to give you, we're going to do a review. This is my feedback, do this. I hate accounting. I hate accounting. And then, and I know I'm not going to lead the accounting. It's not me. It's staying
Right.
on late, and I do that. And it actually works very well for me. But you are a big fan of diversity because you say more diverse environment bring more diverse results.
Absolutely.
Like, why is that?
It's proven. I mean, we can Google it right now. If you're listening, go ahead and Google it. I mean, diversity of representation on teams leads to better business results. If you're sitting in the US right now, I talk about this in Reimagine Inclusion, the number is close to $5 trillion
Wow.
worth of spending power with the multicultural consumer. Can you imagine the spending power. And then you start to think about individuals who identify as LGBTQ plus as a part of that community, veterans, individuals with disabilities. You think about all the intersections of diversity, caregivers, mothers, fathers, right? I'm a marketer, right? So I think about what's my opportunity to understand their lived experience and help enhance the quality of their life with a product or service they didn't expect. And so if you're sitting here listening right now and you're like, there's no growth to be had, there is growth to be had. You're not looking in the right places, right? And so if you want to, let's say, I'm running a big brand. I have an idea for a line extension to serve authentically the Black community. How do I not have enough voices around the table from the Black community? How do I do that? Right? Right? Like I must do it, right? So what I find so interesting is diversity of representation in the workforce is tied to how your brands and products and services show up in the marketplace.
Wow.
They're tied, right? And so I always say workforce is really important, right? Like you have to think about the communities in which you're operating in. Do you have diversity of representation at all levels? And then once you have that, that's when the innovation and ideas start to come, because we all have different lived experiences. And based on your lived experience and my lived experience, we're seeing different opportunities in the market. Right? And so that's what I think people are also missing is the business case for diversity, which I know some people will be like, I don't want to hear the business case for diversity anymore. I'm tired of talking about it. But my job is to educate people on it. There is still and continues to be a huge business case for
But some
diversity.
people, especially in the leadership position, they're not open for diverse ideas. And I don't know why. I never figured out why they don't want to listen to it. Like, it's been very challenging.
I think the hardest job of a leader is to listen to things you didn't expect to hear, people disagreeing with you. I think the sort of old school way of thinking in leadership is like the pyramid.
Yep.
Here I am at the top, and everyone's, and I think of it more as a circle, especially as you think of Gen Z entering the workforce. Go back to what inclusion means, right? You are going to get so much more out of your workforce. I am telling you right now, inclusion is the number one retention tool you have at your hands. Because if I work for you, go back to inclusion, if I feel valued, seen, recognized, my contributions matter, that loyalty is priceless. So someone could come around and offer me another 30, 40,000. I wouldn't take it. Maybe for 100K I would. I'm joking, but you see what I'm saying? Like I would think about that. I think about like some of the businesses I led that were double-digit decline, in the toilet, roughest moments of my career, and I didn't walk away because I loved my VP, I loved the team, we were in it together, and I knew what I was doing, like someone cared about it. And so that's what I want really people to think about.
Yesterday I had a great conversation with my director of sales and marketing. And he's a young guy, he's 27 years old. And I took him for the coffee. He said, would you like espresso? He said, I want an espresso. And I brought my notepad. And I asked him, I want to ask you something. And he said, ask me, sir. I said, I want you to tell me what I do wrong. How can I improve? You've been around me for a long time so far. He said, excuse me? I said, yeah, don't be shy. Punch it. And he said, are you serious? I said, yeah. If I don't do that, how am I going to work around you? Be a better leader and actually fix this stuff, because I don't see things. Do you understand? I'm not God. And he said, okay, can you turn off your notification for your phone? I said, okay, number one. And second, just focus on three most important thing in the day, because on my desk is next to you. And I do that, you get distraction. And I said, okay. And then we went on and on and on, and it was valid. It was valid. And I said, okay, and I have it things, and I'm fixing it from today, and I'm going to do all the turn off my notification. And then he came back to me and said, I can't believe you took all that advice. I said,
that's amazing.
I said, listen, the only way this organization is going to get to next level is all work together.
Yes.
And I'm not perfect. I am not perfect in any means. I need guidance, even as a CEO,
Absolutely.
even as a leader.
Yeah.
And that's what our culture is built in the way that nobody wants to leave. They love it. They all say something about
That's
how we can
amazing.
improve.
Well,
But
I hope leaders are taking notes off of what you did. That's incredible, and more people should be doing that. More people should be doing
but unfortunately, when you do corporate America, they come to your cubic and say, hey, John, you didn't meet your quarters, the numbers, and no, I'm gonna have to let you go. How about if we do this? You go say, John, how's it going? How's the family? I saw that your numbers were a little bit whack. Is anything I can help you that outside the work that can help you inside? Anything that you would like to discuss? I'm just here for you. It's not all numbers, but I just want to know how can I
Absolutely.
help you. Why they don't do that? This is my question for you. Why people don't do that?
Well, because it's easy to pass accountability. And isn't it just hilarious? Because that's a leader's job, is like accountability. So here's the thing. If John works for me and he missed his numbers for the quarter, you and I work for you, you should come to me and say, why did John miss his numbers? I'm holding you accountable as well, right? Like, why is John the one who's being let go and being asked to walk out the door? What's Mita's accountability? Because too often, and you've seen this in your career too, it's too easy to label someone a poor performer.
Oh, absolutely.
John's a poor performer, he's out. Okay, but you as the head of the division should be saying, well, Mita, no, I'm holding you accountable for his performance. What role did you play? Right? What role did the leader play? And so I ask myself, I think some of the smartest companies, if they're thinking about holding their leaders accountable to attrition, that's smart.
But that
If I
comes
have
from fear.
five, yeah, if I have 5 women of color leave my team in 10 days, true story, this happened somewhere I worked. I was one of them who left. Who's holding that leader accountable? Like, nobody. And the cost to replace talent is huge. You know this, you have your own
Yep.
amazing company you're leading. Anyone who leaves, the cost to replace them is quite high.
I think a lot of stuff comes from the fear. I'm sure, I don't know, you agree with it, but sometimes we have a fear of speaking the truth.
Yes.
And this has happened in immigrants a lot. I have seen it because they always think this is Mita. They always think that they owe something to the environment. You don't owe anything, because we are immigrant. That doesn't mean that, we have to always say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I read your writing about I'm sorry, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, I'm not going to say that anymore.
More. But it's interesting. You bring up such an important point when it comes to the immigrant experience. For me personally, my parents sacrificed everything to come to this country. My dad was from a family of 10. My mom's from a family of 9. To this day, none of their siblings have moved to the US. They were here alone. They had no community, had to find community. They had no family. My dad came as a highly educated engineer, ended up becoming an executive at a Fortune 100 company, but he started as a janitor, right? That's the only job he could get.
Wow.
And so for him and for my mother and for many immigrants, it is the survival mode they're in. And it's the go back to my dad's saying where it was like, work hard, keep your head down, you will be recognized, but stay out of trouble. So almost not wanting to be visible because you don't want to rock the boat and you're afraid that you might lose your chance to be here or your livelihood, right? And so I think there's that fear and that trauma's passed on, right? And so then I show up to work and I'm like, again, have to make sure you're more comfortable than me. Whatever happened, I'm just going to apologize. I'm just going to say sorry, even if I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even there, but I'm going to say I'm sorry. I wasn't even in the room. I don't even know. I'm sorry.
That happened to me. It's how you get over it. Like a lot of listeners or viewers they're watching, how they can get over that. I read it that you said just replace the I'm sorry with what?
Thanks for your understanding that I'm late. Thanks for your understanding the technology wasn't working. Thanks for your understanding you couldn't hear me earlier, right?
Yep.
I'm not going to apologize for it being raining or it's cold or there's no coffee when you show up to the office. Thanks for your understanding. I'm going to have someone run to Starbucks and grab you your espresso. Thanks for your understanding. I know it's pretty cold in here. We just called someone to help fix the temperature. I'm not apologizing for all these things anymore. I'm just not. But you have to, I always say, thanks for your understanding, appreciate. You can use other language to acknowledge what's happening, but I don't have control over that. So I'm not apologizing because as I share in this article for Fast Company that you were mentioning, it damaged my leadership brand.
Really?
I'm constantly saying I'm sorry. One of the pieces of feedback I got in a performance review was that people weren't sure that they were confident in me as a leader. Of course, it's coded in vague language. What does that mean? You're not confident in me as a leader. And a coworker pulled me aside, similar to your team member who gave you that feedback. And they said to me, you apologize a lot. You always say, I'm sorry. And so when I say I'm sorry all the time, it doesn't make me seem very confident, does it? If I'm always apologizing.
But are you a pleaser?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was raised to be a pleaser.
And how did you learn how to say no? Because I had that challenge. I finally overcome that. That was my biggest hurdle in life because I was going to please everyone. I couldn't say no, and I kind of destroyed myself, be honest with you.
So one of the things I thought about was, if I had said yes to you, I am going to let you down if I continue saying yes to more people, because I won't be able to deliver for you what I committed to. And that's what I started to really think about. It's important to me to uphold my commitments. And if I keep saying yes, 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 it's going to be a lot of quantity and really poor quality. And so in my personal life, sometimes it might be easier to say no because I am my own boss. My husband and I together, right? We are leading our family. But at work, you're listening and thinking, oh yeah, I mean, that's easy. Say no to your boss. But no, I'll sit with my boss. I'll sit with you and I'll say, you just asked me to take on these 2 priorities. Can we sit back down and look at the whole list? What would you like to come off?
Okay.
How can you help me
prioritize? It differently.
Reroute it. So I'm not saying to you, no, I can't do that. I'm going to say, as you know, this is my current capacity. I'm excited for these initiatives, but can we go back and look at, and you might say, because we're all human, you might have forgotten that you gave me this other stuff. And then you might say, oh, no, don't take off 2 and 3. Stick to 1 and 4, and then the other 2 new ones I gave you. Let's focus on that. And I will tell you, in a market like we're in today, it's super, super important that people look up and understand what the priorities are of the company, which are ever changing, and make sure you're aligning yourself to those priorities and not working on things that you shouldn't be working on, right? And so that's also understanding what to say yes and no to.
You know, the corporate culture, I'm sure you work on the corporate culture that was toxic. And you work in the corporate culture that, what are the signs for a corporate culture as a leader? Like, have you seen it? Because a lot of people, they don't understand when I talk. Get yourself out of that toxic environment, because that will shape you. If you don't want it, it's like a coronavirus. It gets you. It just gets to you. You know, I'm serious, and you got to get out of it. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's not hard. But what are the signs that you have seen it through your career?
I think people leading with a lot of fear, visibly. Fear will get you short-term results. It won't get you long-term results. Leading with kindness and fairness will get you long-term results. You lead with fear and I work for you. Yeah, I'm going to be scared and work for you for a little bit and you're going to get results. But as soon as I can, I'm going to leave, right?
Yeah.
So I think toxic leaders who aren't dealt with, I talk about this in Reimagine Inclusion. One of the myths I debunk is we protect the a-holes because our businesses wouldn't run without them. And so if you see these individuals who continue to stick around and you wonder, at what cost do I let Mita, a toxic leader, stay while she's had so much attrition in her org? That's a sign. I think anytime, listen, in my podcast with DC Marshall Brown Table Talk, we talk about are office politics good or bad? I think office politics are important because they're a part of understanding how people interact with each other. So I'll put a positive spin on it because my parents didn't teach me about office politics. I was always like this. I never looked up. I was always like this working. But office politics go bad when people are pot stirring. There's gossip. There's false narratives being created about people. So those are some of the signs, right? And also, like, here's another thing I always look for. Like, if someone like myself comes in, I work for you, I'm passionate, I'm excited, I show up to work every day, and I show my passion in the way that's authentic to me, all of a sudden I go quiet. All of a sudden I'm labeled a poor performer. When you brought me in as this amazing talent, that's also a sign that something's happening at that company. If you see a lot of people over time going quiet, and of course attrition, you see people leave, that's a sign as well.
And sometimes people, they make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
Of course.
And some of the leaders, they don't understand that really you have to coach those individuals through their mistakes. Otherwise, they're not going to learn anything. and you can't.
Absolutely.
It's just, unfortunately, again, nobody. I don't know. They don't want to spend that time to coaching people because we all make mistakes. I make mistakes every day, and if I
Every
don't
day.
make any mistakes today, I give myself 1 point tomorrow. I can make two, but do you agree with the coaching through mistakes?
You have to, absolutely. Again, leading is a privilege, right? It's a privilege to lead, it's a privilege to be in service of others, to coach and shape people's careers. And tying what you just said to toxicity, one of the first managers I ever had, I'll never forget a big public mistake I made. He embarrassed me and humiliated me to a point where I was like, wow. There's a famous quote from Dr. Maya Angelou that says, when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. I'm sorry, sometimes it takes me 10 times, but I'm getting better at it. But like, he showed me who he was the first time. And when you choose to
Wow.
publicly embarrass, humiliate someone who works for you for a mistake they made in front of senior management, that's a sign of toxicity, right? There's something really unhealthy happening there. But I think it's to your point of like, why don't we coach people through mistakes? Is it because we are overworked? We actually don't have the expertise to be leading teams. We don't know how to help them correct the mistakes. We are angry, humiliated. There's probably a lot of different reasons why we don't do it, but it's the
And
number
may,
one thing we should be doing is
and there's
teaching.
sometimes leaders, believe it or not, I have seen this that they know what they don't know. They know
Mm.
it,
Yes.
but they don't want to admit it, and that bothers me so much.
It's the narcissism and the arrogance. There's a mix of all of that, right? Of like, I'm the leader. I should know everything, right?
No,
But
nobody's perfect.
nobody's perfect. There's no way.
Nobody's perfect. That's the
People
only
call
way
me,
we can.
people call me an expert all the time. You're an expert. I'm like, there's no such thing as experts anymore. I just have deep expertise. There's humility to leadership that people have to understand. The world is changing too fast. How could I say I'm an expert in anything? It's not possible. It's not possible.
What would be the perfect culture would look like for you? Corporate culture.
Preferred culture at work. Wow, like I said, I feel valued. I feel seen. I'm recognized. People, my contributions matter. My voice matters, right? I can be included. I've been in that situation before where I'm included, but it's like, oh, come to the meeting, but don't speak. What? Why do you have me in the meeting? Oh, you can come to the meeting, but don't say anything? You're like, what? Yeah, but that also ties to like, I'm hired for my expertise. You let me do my job and you pay me fairly and equitably, right? And we have fun at work and we learn from each other. I love the idea of what you just said is like coaching through mistakes. I think that's so important and a place where we value the diversity of leadership styles, right? Like introverts and extroverts.
You said you're an introvert. I don't think so. You don't look like you're an
I
introvert.
pose as an extrovert. It takes me a lot of energy. I don't do anything on the weekends. You can ask my husband. Yeah, I'm like
Like
I'm
you
probably an
go all,
ambivert.
you go in all on the during the week, and then on the
Yeah, I
weekend you're
crashed. And
empty.
I didn't realize that about myself. It's interesting that you bring that up. It's probably years later, I was like, into my career, I was like, why am I so tired on the weekends? Like, everybody else is showing up Monday talking about where they went to brunch, and I'm making up lies about what I did on the weekend because I just sat on the couch. I didn't leave my house. But like, I love people, but I think I don't, it also can be exhausting, right? And my job requires a lot of energy, but I also need a lot of quiet time to recharge and
Recharge.
reconnect. Where some people in my life who are self-proclaimed extroverts will go to a party to recharge, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna sit on my couch with a book. Like that's how I recharge, or I'm gonna color with my kids, or I'm gonna watch a Disney movie with them. So I say I'm a selective extrovert, and I pose as an extrovert when I need to.
But I'm
Quite
sure you're
often.
a big believer of energy vampires, right?
Oh
Like,
yes.
oh my
Mhm.
God, I'm a very extrovert, and my wife is very introvert. Like she was like sit down and do all that stuff. But I don't know, when I see people that they suck the energy out of you, I cannot. I run and I can feel it. I'm sure
You
you
can feel it.
feel
You
that.
have to. Yeah. And that makes me sad because I think individuals who sometimes are sucking energy out of you is because they have their own healing to do. They've been hurt in different ways that they haven't recognized yet. And so they're showing up with, in some cases, a lot of negative energy, a lot of energy that's like exhausting. and take you down, right? And so I now think of it as a different way. I was like, oh, what has happened to them in their life that they're showing up this way? Like, how can we help them? How can we help them heal?
Yeah. And then, right now, what is in it in the future for you? Right now, where are you thinking you're going? Because you write a lot, and I love
You know,
that.
why I write a lot too is because it's healing for me. Listen,
Really?
it's healing. It's healing. It helps me process. I love sharing my thought leadership. I'd rather be writing than doing video. I don't have any hobbies. I love my family and kids and friends. I don't bake, I don't ski, I don't paddleboard. I really don't like to travel. My husband forces me to go places, but I love writing. That is my hobby. People are like, how do you write so much? I'm like, because I love it. And I have a new book coming out, which took
Wow.
me 4 years to get published. I got so many rejections for it.
Why?
I was told that there are a lot of people who look like you writing books like this. Come back to us when you have a book more like Sheryl Sandberg.
No way.
Yep, I have. Listen, do you know that a lot of
Are
people
you
keep
serious?
yeah, people keep rainy day folders. It's like all the love notes and nice things people send you. So when you have a rainy day, you like look at it. I have a rejections folder. And so I have an agent and he had helped me and I have all the rejections from editors on what they said about my book. One of the other ones I got from a big imprint, big publisher was like, love Mita's writing. It pops off the page, but who's going to buy her book? Like, nobody knows her.
Oh my
And
God.
so it took me actually the podcast to help continue to create community and conversation. And through the podcast and through my co-host, DC Marshall, I was
Yeah.
connected to Wiley to get a book deal with one of the biggest business publishing houses in the world. But,
How did you deal with the rejection? That's so important because a lot of people are suffering from that. It would
yeah,
destroy some people.
it would, except I just started to think rejection is redirection, right?
Love
It's
that.
redirecting me. I actually had a deal with a major publishing house that got pulled last minute. It wasn't in writing, but it was verbal. And the editor's boss nixed the deal saying there's too many people like her who are writing books like this that we've signed. And so my good friend Lan Fan, who you should have on the podcast, she is the
Yeah.
CEO and founder of Community of Seven. She said to me when I was at my lowest, keep doing what you do best, which is drive community and conversation, and the book deal will happen. But it was really difficult. Rejections, like, I mean, I was rejected so many times. I stopped talking about the fact that I was writing the book because I felt so dejected. And I thought, is this ever going to come out? Is anyone ever going to think this is worthy of being published? Like, it was a long road, and it comes out October 3rd. It's available
Did you
right
get to
now.
the point that said, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to throw the towel?
No. My mother said to me the other day, ever since I could hold a crayon, I've always wanted to write. I've been
Okay.
writing my entire life. And so there's a quote that says sometimes when you bury a seed, it's like burying a dream. It still starts to sprout. Like the universe kept sending me
The
all
message.
these messages that I was meant to write and I was meant to write this book. So I put it aside for a while, but I kept as you've seen, and thank you for reading my writing, I just kept at it. I kept writing and kept writing for any outlet who would take me. I would write, on LinkedIn, started with their blogs, got into Harvard Business Review, got into Fast Company, Adweek. It didn't happen overnight. I am not an overnight success. It took a lot of work to get here. It did not happen for me overnight.
Most of us are like this. Most of the immigrants that they come here, we have to work triple hard to
Yes.
get what we want. And I never understood what is that. Like everybody, like some people, they just snap their finger, they get in it. I always had to work so hard to get what I was looking for like that. Did you have that experience? You had to work so hard.
Absolutely, because you know what? Diversity of representation matters. Who signed me? A woman at Wiley, right? And so, who are the people making decisions in our lives and who can give us access to the opportunities? And if it is a majority group of any group and they don't understand your lived experience, I don't understand Mita's story. I don't understand why this would be of value. I don't know anyone who would read it. It's like, but who do you know, right? Like, how diverse is your own network or circle? And that's why diversity representation matters across the board, because it's about access and opportunity. And if you haven't had that lived experience, or you aren't thinking about it, then you would easily dismiss that business idea or that nonfiction proposal or manuscript or whatever it is.
And I think one of the reasons that the diversity right now here that you said that most of the people in this country don't know it, don't understand it, they're not educated. And you just told me that education is a big part of
Absolutely.
our diversity. Like a lot of people, they still think that I speak Arabic. I said, no, I'm Persian. I speak Farsi. They don't even know where is it? Iran? I said no, it's Iran next to India. It's just, they don't know what they
You can
don't know.
Google it.
Yeah, you can Google it. They really don't understand. Somebody said, "You guys do speak Punjabi?" I said, "No, dude, that's Indian. We speak Farsi, but it's just hard, and it's not their fault because the whole ecosystem, the whole environment, it was not designed for diversity education."
Designed. And that's what we're seeing as the head-on collision right now. The demographics of the US are changing so quickly. You can no longer ignore the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is here and it is here to stay because the demographics keep changing. And I think that when we are scared of things, it's really easy to say something is woke, something is anti-woke, something is political, something is apolitical, when it's just about understanding someone else's lived experience. Like so many of us, as I talk about in Reimagine Inclusion, you could be doing a much better job of educating yourself, not at the conference room table. It starts at the kitchen table. Think about
Yep.
who are the 5 people you surround yourself with outside of your family? If they all look like you, act like you, and think like you, we're self-segregating. Education starts with personal relationships, right? The fact that you might have a friend or coworker, I wouldn't say they're a friend if they think you speak Punjabi. They've got a ways to go to get to know you, right? And like when you build those authentic relationships, they can ask you things about what's happening to your
I,
community in
yeah,
different parts of the world, what I've seen in the media. What do you think about women's rights? Like then it's like, oh, well, I can ask you these questions because I've gotten to know you and actually care about what you might think. And I know it might be impacting you on a human level.
when you step out of your comfort zone and your cycle, everything's happening. And I totally agree with that, with all that. But thank you so much, Mita. I know you gotta go. We are keep tracking the time. You gotta have a hard stop. But I really, really enjoyed my conversation with you. And as I said, your contribution to LinkedIn and fast company entrepreneurship was all. I suggest everybody go read because they are so diverse topics, and I love it. And I read it, and actually I send it to my staff. Say, guys, read this. We are a very diverse company. You got to read it. This is so good. And today we were discussing how we're gonna change "I am sorry" to something else, and we're practicing that right now as we speak. Today in our meeting, we say, guys, we're not gonna. If something happens with our clients, we're going to say, okay, we didn't know. We're going to dig into it. Thank you so much. That was a big help to us.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll all read the book. I look forward to your feedback.
Absolutely.
I know you'll enjoy it. Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you. You
appreciate
have a wonderful day, Mita.
it.